If a player cleans his ball during play of a hole, except on the putting green, he shall incur a penalty of 1 stroke. That's a rule, Jerry.
But it's just a friendly game. Why do you always have to be such a stickler?
Because that's the way I was raised.
Welcome to Spirit of the Game, brought to you by the Colorado Golf Association. Now here's your host, Ed Mate.
Okay, welcome back to another edition of Spirit of the Game. I'm so excited, as I always say. That's what I always say to start these. Because I am. I really am. So a very special guest this month for our September issue or offering, and that's she's back again. This is like Saturday Night Live when they come back for the third or fourth or fifth. Christie Austin, welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Ed.
Okay, so some of you may recall last time we had the what do we call you guys? The first lady and first man of rules in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Christie and Bob Austin. This will be nice because you don't have to compete for the mic today.
Exactly.
You only have to compete with me.
That's okay. I like that competition.
Okay. Well, I like to talk. So, all right. So let's sort of, I'm going to get into this just to kind of, we're going to circle back, but the focus of today is a very well-known ruling that was made at this year's US Open, became well-known, with Sam Burns and the quote-unquote temporary water on what fairway was that?
15.
On 15. But that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to tease this by saying, I have talked to a lot of golfers about this ruling. And I was playing just the other day knowing you were going to be on. And I said, by show of hands, and it was 4 other people, I guess it was 3 other people. How many people think that should have been temporary water, should have been relief? And every hand went up.
Yeah.
And then I did my level best to explain the definition of temporary water. And I'm not sure I convinced them. So today we're going to this isn't about who's right, who's wrong. This is about officiating, interpreting the rules and applying the rules. If you have a problem with the rule, well, that's another matter. But we definitely want to, discuss the facts. So before we do that, just remind our listeners your background with the USGA, with the rules of golf, and why you get invited to even be there to give rulings.
Well, I'm always honored to be invited because it's, as you know, it's a select few that at our level that are invited. It's mostly paid professionals that officiate at the US Open. So it's always a wonderful invitation. So my background, I have an unusual background in that I started rules of golf when I joined the board of the USGA in 2007, which is an unusual way to step into the rules, but that's how I did. My first rules assignment was at Augusta for the Masters, which was frightening, but I got through it. And then I quickly became certified in the rules of golf, knowing that we were going to officiate at every major championship that the USGA conducts. Mm-hmm. So I started in 2007. I've done I think I'm at 75 USGA national championships. And with NCAA championships, I'm over 100 total. So I've done it a lot over the 19 years I've been at it and really enjoy it. And every year I do it, I think this is so fun. It's a great group of people. It's fun to test your knowledge at rules and make sure you're certified. So you have to sit through a 3.5 day class and take an exam and make sure you get the number to get the best invitations. Yeah. So I continue to do it, Ed, and I'm telling you, it's a thrill every time.
That's awesome. So you weren't born in 2007.
No,
you had a life.
I was not.
You had a life before this.
I did.
So tell our listeners what professional background you have. Why would the USGA even think to invite you to?
Well,
I know you're so humble. You'll say, well, I don't know. They shouldn't have, but
I sort of know. I was a CPA by trade, and my last career was CFO of Marsco Capital, which I loved. I was there 10 years. But when I was asked to join the board, and I think when I was asked to join the board, I interviewed in 2006, was nominated and joined the board in 2007. They were looking for women. And I think I was just fortunate to fit the box. They wanted women that had some skill. And I was a competitive player. So I'd played in a number of championships, USGA championships. And I was vice chair and had worked many of the championships at Cherry Hills. So I met USGA folks at the 2005 Women's Open that we chaired.
Okay.
And so that's where I met the executive committee and the women's committee. And I think that's how I got on the radar. So when I joined, I retired because it's a full-time volunteer position is how I tell people. I gave up a lucrative career to go volunteer. And it's been, we've never looked back. Bob supported me in that. I was, I think, the fifth woman in 114 years to be a member of the executive committee. And now there's many women. They've really changed their ways and have many women involved now. But I was kind of unusual at the time. Yeah.
But you also went on to chair the Rules of Golf Committee during that time as well.
I did. Yeah. I my last year on the board in 2012, I chaired the Rules of Golf. And that was when we were working through banning the anchoring of the putter. And that was a tumultuous time, shall we say. And I had many meetings across the pond and many Zoom meetings. And I mean, it was a crazy year, but we got it done.
Yeah. I want to make sure we don't forget to talk about that. I don't want to get sidetracked now, but, and talk about the rollback of the ball and kind of some other bigger, I wouldn't say bigger, but just, more widely known or widely impacted than one single ball in the fairway on 15 at Oakmont. Sure. So let's see. How do invitations for the USGA championships work? How do they decide now who gets invited to? I mean, the USGA conducts a lot of tournaments, and you don't only work the Open; you work
work a lot of
U.S. girls and so many. So how
Walker Cup coming up?
Yes, Cypress Point. You'll be there.
Yes, I'm working it.
That's fantastic.
Talk about an exclusive invitation. I don't know how I got on the list, but I'm going.
Well,
and
you like to say that, but if you work 75 USGA championships, I would hope that elevates you into the radar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how does it work? How do you get?
Well, it's interesting. They put out now. The process has changed over the years, but now they put out a questionnaire sometime in the fall. This is what championships are you interested in working? Now they exclude the Opens. Mm-hmm. That's not on the questionnaire. Yeah. It's every other championship. Women's Am, all the amateurs. So you just sort through your calendar and say, I'd love to work these three or these two or whatever ones you want to work. Then they will invite you and say, we'd love to have you. They invite you sometime late December, which is great because it used to happen at the last minute. Now you have some time to plan your calendar and actually go. And then the invitations for the Open go out shortly after that. And I don't know, Ed. I just know that sometimes I get invited and
but how many did you check? There are ones that you
just the ones I want to work.
And why do you, what do you choose? Why and why?
Okay. Bob and I always do the girls junior. It's one of our favorite championships.
Okay.
And we do that together and we usually get either a semifinal or final match. And so it's just a thrill and it's a wonderful USGA
Talk about getting
team.
To see the up and comers. Oh my goodness.
Well, that's exactly. You get to see them young and before.
By the way, did Lottie Wode ever make a splash in the girls junior? I mean, she's taking the world
but she
by
made a
storm.
splash at the NCAAs.
Yeah. Okay.
And now she's making a big splash, right? As she's turned professional and she's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
So I usually pick two or three because, and the reason I say that is because I usually do get an Open, either women's or an Open. And I like to do other things. I like to play golf. I like to travel. And so I don't fill up my entire summer working championships. And I typically get what I request, which is really nice.
Do you usually get more than one of the Opens?
No, they only give you one Open.
Oh, really?
There's just so many people that want to work an Open.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I actually agree with that we need to spread the wealth because it's such an honor and a privilege to work those national championships that we need to have everyone that's qualified get a chance to do it at some point.
Yeah.
And I've done 13 U.S. Opens.
Have you been on a run of consecutive U.S. Opens?
It's funny you ask because I worked 7 consecutively from 7 to 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 7 consecutively till 13. And then they sort of want you to take a year or two off after you roll off the executive committee. And I did I've done 1, 2, 3. I've done 6 since I rolled off, but I've
Okay.
done the last 3. So that is a run. I suspect that they'll roll me off again probably next year. I'll probably sit out a few. I wouldn't be surprised.
Particularly after you screwed up the Sam Burns.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
You did not decide if I screwed it up.
No,
right?
no, you definitely did not. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. And by the way, when you listen to podcasts, they'll always say back after the break, and then they do a little interrupt. We don't do that here. We will when we become more famous and we get the sponsors. So we're gonna just interject here that you're also on the Colorado Golf Foundation board, which is the board that supports youth golf in Colorado. And I want to thank you for that role. And you're very active on that board. So that's our little plug.
Oh, okay.
For the Colorado Golf Association for you. The foundation board has 8, 9 board members, and you're among a great group of people that are fiduciaries over now $4.5 million that we have in the bank. And in addition to supporting CGA programs, First Tee chapters, we have a grants committee that's always looking to support worthwhile causes that focus on youth golf and youth development through golf. So,
well, and I'll put a plug in for Ryan and Tim, who are doing an amazing job at identifying, administrating, all the work that goes into running that foundation. Mm-hmm. They are just stellar, and you're fortunate to have them. We're fortunate to have them as board members. Totally
agree. Okay, so let's get into Oakmont. So you got the call, and you were invited to go to Oakmont. Had you officiated there before?
It's funny because that was my very first Open in 2007.
Okay. So you had a little experience there. Probably changed quite a bit.
Well, we used to walk with the players back then.
Well, not only that, the golf course is totally different.
Well, the golf course is totally different.
It was tree lined and back in 07.
Yeah. Actually, no, they had removed.
They?
They hadn't removed all the trees, but they had.
They were in the process.
It was. Yeah.
So when do you arrive in U.S. Open week? And do they expect you to work all 4 days? Can you choose to work just a short week? How does that all work?
Yeah, they request if you're going to work that you work the entire. You work the 4 days.
Yeah.
Again, because the invitations are there's just not very many of them.
Right.
They want you there. Although some people will request a half day off. I always feel like, hey, I'm there to work. If you need me all day, I'm there all day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you usually go, you fly in Wednesday so that you're there for a Thursday rules meeting and a Thursday TIO demonstration / meeting.
Temporary and movable obstructions for those that are unfamiliar. Although people listening to this podcast know exactly.
So TIOs typically, especially at these championships, are all the build out that's normally not on the golf course.
Right.
Grandstands, microphones, cameras,
concessions, restrooms, all this stuff. All these people.
There's a lot of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And balls go weird places.
They sure do.
So. Anyway, we do that. And then we have a rules meeting and dinner. But by then you'll know your assignments. Mm-hmm. And so they expect you, as they should, to go do your homework, go out to the hole, walk the hole, become familiar with potential areas where you're going to be needed. Mm-hmm. So we do that on Thursday as well. I'm sorry, on Wednesday. Am I getting the dates screwed up?
You said that makes sense.
We fly in on Tuesday, the rules meeting.
Wednesday.
And the walkthrough.
It'd be tough to do it on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday would be tough since that's day one of the championship. So I was a day late on that. But you get the drift. I mean, we go in and do our homework, have meetings, and then we're ready to rock and roll when the first tee.
So, that really resonates with me because I've worked a couple US Opens, and when we were walking with players, I've never worked a US Open since when we'll call it the bedside manner, the officiating approach went to zones or holes or whatever. And I found it to be very daunting to get there, to get the hole by hole notes, to walk the entire golf course and to feel this sense of overwhelm. It's like cramming for a final. And I found that to be, frankly, very stressful. And I learned not to worry about it. I just said, okay, I'm going to do the best I can. If I'm in a situation where I'm over my head or I don't know what's going on, I'll just get on the radio. And then when I had the chance to work the Masters, it was really nice to be on a hole and really get out there early and understand what's going on. So how does your approach with the change in terms of how you prepare based on the different styles now?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think that before you sort of needed to be familiar with the entire golf course.
Right.
And that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things on every hole. So I think being an expert at your hole
Mm-hmm.
is probably more useful and calming, because you know what you're going to potentially see. And as the hole plays out during the day, you'll know even more
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Do they change your assignment every day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what holes were you on this year?
And I actually went back and looked at some stats. So I was on the 10th hole, and I had the entire hole. I had 3 rulings, so not many, but total rulings on Thursday were 76 rulings across the course.
And you know that because
we keep stats.
Yeah.
And every ruling that you do, we now input it on our device and explain what it was.
No more
what
written
happened.
cards?
No. It's so much better.
Oh, good.
And you do it real time. So
just think when AI comes along and you won't need you anymore.
Yeah. I don't know.
Robot rules officials.
Yeah, really. That's not going to happen, right? Because there's too much
subjectivity and too much nuance, every situation. Exactly.
So, and then on Friday, there was 58 rulings. I had 5.
Wow.
I was on 18.
Okay.
On Friday.
Were those TIOs?
No.
Okay.
No, they were not TIOs. In fact, Oakmont is unusual in that we didn't have that many TIO rulings because the build out was far enough away
so big
from the green complexes, and the rough was incredibly long. So the ball never got there.
Yeah.
So we had a few, but typically you see
that
a lot
showed
more
on TV too. You could see that. Yeah.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah.
So Saturday there was 36 rulings. So the rulings actually went down. Which is.
And remind me the weather. What was the weather? And that does make sense because you cut the field in half, right? Or more than half.
That's right. Exactly.
And the play gets better. So you're going to get fewer offline golf balls.
But it was still wet. I had 7 green. I had no rulings. I kept thinking I might have
on Saturday.
On Saturday, I had the 7th green.
Okay.
Just the green. It's par 3.
Okay.
No
rulings.
Not. It's a par 4. What am I saying? But I had just the green. Okay. So I had nothing.
Yeah.
Sunday is a big question mark because they didn't fill out the stats for Sunday.
Oh.
So I don't know how many total rulings there were, but I was on 15 fairway, which I thought
would be quiet.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be so great. I'll see every player come through and hit their drives, hit their approach shots to the green, and it's going to be a great day. Well, the weather was, it was calling for lousy weather, which if you watched the Open, you saw spurts of very bad weather. And we actually had to call play probably 3/4 of the way through Sunday, where we were off the course for over an hour. I think it was an hour and a half.
Was that for lightning? Was it for rain?
It was for unplayable conditions. It was rain. It was down. Okay. The greens were puddling and but there was lightning too. I mean, it was everything. Okay. It was really, really tough. So typically my rulings on Sunday, I can tell you, were mostly about temporary water.
Right.
Because there was the course, because it had gotten so much rain before the championship, and then during the championship, it still got rain overnight. We were getting, inundated with rain. So the course, to say it was saturated is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
It was very, very wet.
One of the 2 Opens I worked, the first one was at Bethpage. It was the year Lucas Glover won, and exactly the same kind of conditions. I think it was 2009. Were you at that one?
I was not.
Oh. And I learned a lot by being at that championship. I'm
sorry, I was there. See how you forget them?
Yeah. You were at Bethpage?
Yeah, I was at Bethpage.
It was the green, the whole,
I remember that one.
The golf course was so saturated. It was like somebody described it perfectly. If you take a sponge and you soak it and you don't squeeze it, right? So it's full of water, and the surface of it is kind of playable. But the moment you get any more rain, it just oozes water.
Right.
And that's kind of what it felt like. And it seemed like that's what you were definitely dealing with this year at Oakland.
Yes, we were. In fact, I had This is a perfect example of what happened with this temporary water. So Scotty Scheffler comes out. He's in a few groups after play resumes, sopping wet. And as people saw on television, if you took a practice swing and you're hitting the grass, you're spraying water because there's definitely the course is saturated. So he did have temporary water. He was early on coming out. He did have temporary water. So we walked through, took us a few minutes to try to identify where his nearest relief would be. And guess what? It was going to be in the rough. What did he decide to do?
He's going to play it.
He's going to play it.
Yeah.
He's not going to drop it in that long rough.
So I want to get right into the meat of this now. But before I do that, talking about temporary water, the definition of temporary water, was there discussion about calling it for the day?
No,
because on the sitting on my comfortable couch, I was like, I wonder if they should be playing. And it's so easy to sit there and be smarter than everybody in the lion's den there dealing with the pressure to finish. I know is immense on a Sunday because of all the infrastructure and all the economics of finishing on the, and do you feel like that? And again, this isn't, I'm not asking you to second guess the decision. Did the weather hold out after you resumed, or did it? I kept trying to remember. It seems like there was umbrellas again. Did the conditions of the course get worse? Is what I'm saying after the resumption.
No,
they did not.
No, in fact, they got a little better.
Okay, because I'm sure
bringing me to Sam Burns ruling, but no, it was very much time to quit when we called it to lightning and rain and just unplayable. And there was chatter during the break. Like I said, I think it was an hour and a half. We were off the course.
And just to be clear, when you say chattered, so everybody knows, you're not making that call.
No.
Who is making the call on resuming? Who's ultimately?
It's really the
is that John Bodenhammer making that call, or is that a Craig Winter?
That's a Thomas Pagel, Craig Winter, and also the staff at Oakmont who are out there trying to get the course in shape to play again, because we were squeegeeing fairways, we were squeegeeing greens. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when we got the guys back out there, it was playable. Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt. It was playable. It was wet. Yeah. It was saturated. No doubt. Yeah. But these guys are professionals and they're used to playing in lousy weather, and it probably played in worse, but it is the US Open. So there's a lot of pressure. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk. Give us the definition. So you're out there, play is resumed. The course is saturated, but playable. And now you, as a rules official on 15, are having to be the adjudicator. I'll have to be able to use that word. The person deciding whether there is a ball is, if there's interference, try to be exacting in our language here, from temporary water. So what is temporary water? Okay. So the definition of temporary water is any temporary accumulation of water on the surface of the ground, such as puddles from rain or irrigation, or an overflow from a body of water that is not in a penalty area and can be seen before or after the player takes a stance without pressing down excessively with their feet. That's pretty key. It is not enough for the ground to be merely wet, muddy, or soft, or for the water to be momentarily visible as the player steps on the ground. An accumulation of water must remain present either before or after the stance is taken. Yeah, it's amazing how that definition says it all. It does. And this isn't, I don't know where I picked this up. The rules define the game, and the definitions define the rules. And if you read the definitions, and if you're interested in becoming a certified rules official, or just have an interest in them, read the definitions. The other thing that I think is key in that definition that I was listening for is on the surface. And this is where I have to say, I can see the logic of somebody trying to poke holes in the ruling, or in the whether or not there was interference. Because if you think about stance lie, area of intended swing, say your ball is in deep grass, and near the deep grass there's a sprinkler head, and your ball is not sitting on the sprinkler head. Your ball is not, you're not standing on it, but it's going to
interfere as your ball makes impact, particularly kind of an explosion shot near a green side where the grass, we all know you play that like a bunker shot. So you're going deep. So as you follow through, you may impact that sprinkler head. That's your area of intended swing. So, and again, I can see somebody saying the club hits ball, you then, where's my area of intended swing? Well, it's going down beyond the surface. It's now bringing up water. Why is that not my area of intended swing? And I'm not asking you to rewrite the definition, but you sat on the Rules of Golf Committee. And as we, unpack this, do you think that what would happen if the definition was expanded to address this? And so that the balls that you were ruling on, because your ruling it's easy to sit back and say the ruling was wrong. That's casual. No, it's not. Or temporary water. You made the right ruling. And I want to come back to the ruling in a minute to talk about how you exactly walked through with Sam Burns. But what would be the problem in saying we're going to expand it to include the subterranean water?
Because that's subjective. And I think what you get into then, Ed, is, well, how deep? I mean, and how can you measure that? And how can you define that? So then it becomes very difficult to determine if temporary water exists, if you're talking about subsurface.
Right.
I think the way it's written is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I think it's
well, and you just said that it becomes pretty darn subjective. And I think there's a strong comparison to divots and fairways. When is it, because now every single lie of every ball, somebody's going to say, I have temporary water because it's right there, and they're going to take a tee and they're going to, So it's to say that's a slippery slope. The same would be true for divots and fairways. If you say you get from relief from divots and fairways, well, everything's a divot or everything's something less than perfect is going to be, somebody's going to make that claim.
Yeah, I would love to talk about divots at some point in not today, but that argument, if you ask anybody what rule they'd like to change, that's always number one.
Oh, I know.
We need to get relief.
And I think you can, I have had enough of those conversations that I think you can fairly quickly persuade people if they're willing, if they're even remotely logical. I mean, it's just when is a divot no longer a divot? Okay. So let's get right into so the players are now coming through.
They're coming through, and
Scotty Scheffler asked for relief. He didn't like. He was actually in temporary water, had interference from temporary water. He didn't like it. Who else did you have the same conversation with? Well,
I had another interesting ruling right before. Let me just explain this one. Carlos Ortiz. So now, meanwhile, the players are coming out. It's miserable conditions. If you hit it in the rough there, typically the players are just chunking it out. Mm-hmm. And guess where it always lands when they chunk it out? In the crosswalk, which is where they do get relief, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So anyway, Carlos Ortiz, poor guy, I think he was in a group 1 or 2 in front of Burns. The ball spotter stepped on his ball when we were searching for it.
Oh, wow.
So, and, went into the ground. So obviously his lie had been impacted. So he was very happy to know that he could drop it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, place it within a club length. So got him out. He was so sweet. And by the way, every person you deal with, every player, they're just golfers, right. And they're very respectful. And they're, I've never had anybody snap at me.
Right.
It's very professional. So we got him going. But, Mark Leishman, Victor Hovland, Max Grazerman, who he asked for temporary relief too, and he didn't have it. So he wasn't very.
So those others you mentioned, were they all the same asking for temporary water relief?
No, crosswalk. Mark Leishman and Victor were in the crosswalk, and then Max chopped out and he was in the crosswalk after he was denied temporary relief.
Yeah.
But, going to, so here comes the last group, the day's almost over. Great.
Yeah.
And he's in the fairway. And so I just don't even think a thing about it. I'm looking, and several other balls had been there previously. They hadn't called me over.
Same area.
And him and his caddy are chatting. He's taking practice swings, of course, spraying water everywhere. And he waves me over. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. I bet I know what this is. So I go over there and say, how can I help you, Sam? He says, well, I think I'm in casual water, because that's typically what players still call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm entitled to relief because of all this water around my ball. And when I take a stance, I said, well, let's look at that. And I said, there has to be visible water around your ball, and there's not. And so I had him take his stance a couple of times. And of course, when he stomps down, there's a little bit of water coming up, but it's not visible once he takes his stance.
Right.
And I explained that to him. I said, unfortunately, the rule's very clear on what is defined as temporary water, and you just don't have it. His caddy gets involved and says, well, wait, look at the ball. Isn't there water? I mean, they're trying to tell me that there's water there. I said, I just don't see it. So he said, okay, thanks. He was fine. He was like, let's move on. So Bones is right there. So I deny relief. Bones Mackay is there on the microphone. I back away. Bones backs away. And he goes, so you just denied Burns relief from temporary water? I said, I did. And he turns away from me, and he's still 2 feet from me. And he says, well, Sam Burns was just denied temporary water relief. And I just can't even believe it.
Oh my gosh.
So now he's not talking. I figured out he wasn't talking to the broadcast live, but he was talking to the booth, telling these people what was transpiring. And I looked back over at Sam and his caddy, and I looked at the putting green. They're still hacking away around the putting green. It hadn't cleared yet. That hole was the hardest hole. It was just brutal. Lots of bogeys and doubles and others.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank goodness, something popped in my head and said, Sam, I'm happy to call over a rover if you'd like a second opinion. It just takes a minute. I'm happy to do that. He says, okay, but he didn't say, let's do it. So I backed away again. Another probably 30 seconds goes by, and he's talking to his caddy, and he says, yeah, you know what? Let's call over the rover. I said, perfect. Get on the radio, call over my rover.
Who was that, by the way?
It was Ben. He was
Shade.
No. Head of the DP World Tour.
Oh, okay. Good.
Head rules official. I mean, this guy was brilliant and wonderful. So obviously, as you know, when you call in for a second opinion, there's no discussion between you and the person who is going to give the second opinion. You walk away.
Right. Because you want them to be
It's a fresh start, a fresh look at the situation. So Ben comes over and goes through the exact same steps that I had gone through. Sam, let's look at your ball. There's no temporary water. Let's look at your stance. Asked him a couple of times. Same answer.
Yeah.
There is no temporary water here. And again, Sam was okay with it. Now the green had cleared. And I think he just hit a bad shot.
Yeah.
I mean, his lie did not dictate that awful shot that he hit.
Yeah.
The nerves, he'd already started imploding, I guess, because I wasn't watching the telecast, but from what people have told me, and I did go back and watch a little bit of it, he was struggling.
Yeah.
He was just struggling. And it was really unfortunate that happened. His relief, by the way, had we said, there is temporary water, his relief would have been 1 foot away in the rough.
Yeah.
And he would not have taken that because the lies there were impossible.
Right.
So at least where his ball was, he could get the club on it and advance it to the green.
Right.
Not so with the rough.
That's there's a lot of interesting things there. I think you were brilliant personally to ask for that second opinion, not for him, but for you, just because you would have, if you hadn't done that and it would have been that much more weight on your shoulders. And why wouldn't you have gone ahead and said, I'm asking this because I think I know what you're going to say. By the way, Sam, your nearest point of relief is going to be in the rough. Is that crossing the line in your opinion of giving the player advice? Just saying it. And part of the reason that kind of got me thinking is Andy McPhee, who you remember was a wonderful human and a wonderful rules official. We were talking over lunch one day at one of the opens, and he said, there's nothing wrong with leading the player a little bit and letting them know where the outcome might be without, in his opinion, without, violating the advice rule.
Yeah.
Did that ever cross your mind?
It didn't. Certainly I could have. What has crossed my mind since then is I know one thing. Every time I'm in a high profile ruling or a difficult situation, I will always call for a second opinion, even if the player doesn't ask for it, simply because I don't do this for a living.
Right.
Most of the guys out there do it for a living. The players know the guys that do it for a living, or, for the most part, at least the American rules officials. And I just think it's a good way it's a good way to make sure you're getting it right, but just to protect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, I totally agree. And I kind of
best practices is
reminded
what I would call
myself when I was in that situation, and I never had one, didn't put myself as often as you do. But I always said, if I ever get in that situation, I'm going to ask for, unless it's like the most obvious, ridiculously easy, but if there's any interpretation, I'm just going to cover my
wise advice. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's, taking penalty relief from
right.
There's certain things they're not going to question at all.
Right.
But,
and you probably won't even get called over anyway. Although I don't know. Okay. So the group goes through and by the way, one thing we'll have to say about Sam Burns, I was really anxious to hear his interview afterward, and he was the consummate gentleman about it.
And he was a gentleman with me.
Yeah.
And not a snarl or any, I mean, he was
but he owned he just took responsibility. Yeah. He had a bad shot. I didn't hit the good shots, and it stings, and he didn't blame anyone. And we all know that. And I'm really happy to hear what you said earlier about how, in your experience, that's always been the way it is. These guys are very respectful and professional. But I thought, I'm not sure every professional in that situation wouldn't have chosen that opportunity to say, I kind of got a bad ruling, or I don't know.
Or I disagree with it.
Or I disagree.
Right.
He didn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
He totally took full responsibility. And then, of course, look, JJ Spawn hit some of the most amazing golf shots down the stretch that you're ever going to see.
I tell you, I was standing on the 18th green watching him. That final putt was truly unbelievable that it went in. It was just, it was just his day. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
So did you get any surprising, did you get hate mail? Did you get any
okay. So here's what happened after. So I go back to the hotel, and Bob actually he's texting me. And of course, I'm not looking at my phone when I'm working. He's like, he answers questions for the USGA, Zindex questions, right? Mm-hmm. That's the system that they use. I guess it was blowing up. So he's texting me pictures of the questions that people are sending into the USGA, and they're cursing, and they're,
oh, wow,
she should never be allowed to rule.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, just awful. And so then I thought, well, that's interesting. And so then I start Googling and reading social media.
Always dangerous.
Oh, MG. I will never do that again either. Yeah. I mean, it was unreal. Even trying to convince my best friends, male golfers, said, that's just wrong. It should, it was amazing. The feedback. Of course, people were rooting for Sam Burns, which I love him too. Yeah. I think he's just a swell guy. But the fact of the matter is, we got the ruling right. He hit some bad shots. He didn't win, but it's just, some people thought we shouldn't have been playing. Like you questioned that. Right. Was it unplayable?
Right. Well, this, not that. It's kind of like when somebody gets accused of some horrible thing, and it's on the front page, and then the redaction is like, page 50. And that's kind of what this podcast is, it was like, but no, I mean, I think people who are informed get it, but let's be honest, a lot of people, most people are not informed. And that's the point of Spirit of the Game, is to give you a chance to explain the facts and how you applied those facts to this situation.
I'll tell you what warmed my heart more than anything was receiving texts and emails from the top dogs at the USGA, including Craig Winter and Jeff Hall, and some people that had been watching the telecast, going on and on about what a great job I did, and you handled it well. And
so when you look, I'm just curious, were you nervous?
No.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised to hear that, because I know you well enough to know that you don't ever seem nervous. I mean, you have a very composed way about you. And I think, like you said earlier, these are just golfers, but we all know you're on a stage that's so much bigger. And then you look at just a little bit of peeking behind the curtain of social media, and you're like, whoa, I don't know if. So
luckily my picture wasn't the one that got broadcast all over social media. It was Ben. So
he got to be the fall guy.
Yeah. Cause nobody was saying, well, who was she? Yeah. Because it really wasn't me. There was somebody did find one picture, but,
we all know if they could have blamed a woman, they would have.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Right.
But the picture that's somebody sent to Bob was close enough that you could see there wasn't temporary water around.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a good picture. Yeah. Anyway, it was, let's just say it's probably my most famous ruling I've had to date. Now I have a new one.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Another funny thing about temporary water is that, and I'm sure you heard the same thing, that some people still as if it ever existed, it has to be over the sole of the shoe. Or do you hear that still?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know where that came from, that wives' tale.
I don't know.
If you see it, just to be very clear here. So people who are listening this deep into the podcast are very clear. You have to see it. And you have to see it while the player is. So if I'm tromping around and I'm not putting extra weight down, and so as you're exploring the action area of this shot, the water needs to be visible, but is it just, I just want to be super clear. Was there clearly, so in Sam Burns's case, there was no visible water really anywhere near what if it's, just a little bit of ways, but it's not in that area infected by a stance, lie, or intended swing, then yeah.
No, it's not, it just wasn't there. And what people saw on the telecast was practice swings where water was spraying everywhere.
Right.
Well, that was happening all over the golf course, by the way, to every player.
Yeah.
But what gets telecast is just, the leaders on the, on the 15th hole.
Yeah.
Denied relief, and then then it kind of blows up.
Okay, well, we have a few more minutes here. I wanted to go back. I made a note to go back to talk about anchoring, which I thought we were done with this, and it still feels like it pops up now and again when somebody gets accused of their anchoring. How did that decision, as you were chairing the rules committee when that was happening, how did that play out? What is your recollection of how you decided to write the rule and all that went into that?
Well, there was months and months of discussion about how to write the rule, what words to use, how to describe anchoring. And that was really difficult because there's several ways you can anchor, depending on what you're doing with the putter. So that was technically, it was just a very difficult rule to write. But from the standpoint of why we did it, I think that as we discussed how you play golf, there needs to be some free swinging of the golf club. And as we started hearing more and more stories about kids being taught anchoring before they're taught, from the very beginning, it was on the radar. It was already on the radar before I chaired it, and we were talking about it for a good 18 months before it actually ended up deciding we were going to ban it. But I think if you think about how you play golf and this whole free swinging of the club concept, it really wasn't. I mean, you were locking in to a part of your body. And quite frankly, the people that were anchoring were doing really well. And we didn't want to see the game become putting as that's the only technique people are using.
Right.
It just wasn't, we just didn't think it
where it becomes
met the criteria of making a stroke.
Right. Well, and you look at I think the ruling, who knows? I mean, it may be revisited, but I think I get asked that question a lot, and I love the outcome. And I think it's, you look at Akshay Bhatia, who's now using and his putting has benefited tremendously, but he's not anchoring. There's no doubt he's not anchoring. You look at Lucas Glover, who found new form just by going to, so the other thing is it definitely put a lid on it. You don't see people who are struggling still go to the long putter. People who are putting well don't. So that tells you that probably got it right.
Well, and my husband and my father-in-law were both anchorers, so they weren't real pleased with this whole conversation. But at the end of the day, I think it was the right decision for sure. So,
do you have any personal views on the rollback of the golf ball? I say personal views. I know that it's still a ways away, but what is your? I'm sure this comes up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what.
And I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ran Jarris, when he was on, no, it wasn't Ran Jarris. Who was it that I had on? And they corrected themselves in how they described it. It'll come to me. I think it was Mark Hill, actually, or even it was Kevin Hammer, who's going to be president of the USGA. We were chatting at the Senior Open at the Broadmoor, and he corrected himself. It's not a rollback. And he gave me a much longer, because I think the term rollback has a negative connotation now, but basically trying to put a lid on how far the golf ball goes.
Yeah. I think what the general public does not understand about what they're trying to do is obviously put a lid on it, and they need to, because we're having more and more golf courses obsolete with no additional land to speak of. And even if there was additional land, the cost of maintaining bigger and bigger golf courses is prohibitive. So something had to be done. But my question is, are they doing enough? Because the average golfer, Ed, will not see a difference in their yardage with this adjustment. It will be the elite, the professionals, and the very elite amateurs that have the ball speed, the swing speed that they have. They'll see a difference, but you might, but I won't.
No, I definitely won't. Believe me.
If I notice a yard difference, it's just not, it's not going to impact.
Yeah. And I would be in that camp if is it enough? And it's again, so easy to sit on the sidelines, and the USGA has to deal with so many stakeholders. And so you have to pick a date far enough out that allows the manufacturers to adjust. You're talking about billions of dollars of industry and that you're affecting. And then you have to be compromised. You just have to keep looking at, what is the right. So I think I think the methodology, and the other thing that people tend to forget, the distance study, they've been looking at this for a long time,
really long time.
And you could easily be critical the other way and say, and it's funny when you ever hear Mike Wan interviewed, he says, I got half the people mad at me for doing it at all, and the other half are not doing it enough and more quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that probably means they've probably picked the right center point on this.
Yeah. If I find out anything else, I'm going to over to St. Andrews for the autumn meeting, and we'll see some RNA guys there. I don't know if I'll be able to talk to any of the rules people, but as I get more information on what they're attempting to do, if I have anything to share, I'll send you an email.
While you're there, I have a favor to ask.
Okay.
Please talk to those RNA people, which you're one of. We didn't mention that. You're a member of the RNA.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, I am.
Does that mean you got to vote over there? Do you get to vote on stuff?
What are we voting on?
Well, we're voting on changing the name, or proposing an alternative name to Stableford and calling it Points. So in my 2 minutes of fame on the Rules of Golf Committee, I raised my hand, gained up, summoned up the courage to make a motion. And Mark Newell said, Ed, you can't make motions. You're an advising member. You would have told me the same thing, because I was sitting in the seat of State and Regional Golf Association rep Ed Mate. And I said, I'd like to make a motion. And Mark said, in a friendly way, you can't make motions, but go ahead. Maybe somebody will be persuaded to pass your motion along. And I said, I think we should change the name of Stableford to Points. I think Stableford is a barrier to adoption. I think more people would play it if it didn't have this silly, absurd, antiquated name. And if that's not good enough, then we can at least say parenthetically, also known as Points. Because with foursomes, we didn't change the name of foursomes, but we put also known as alternate shot. And I think there's a much stronger case to be made for Points, because if you read the definition of Stableford, it says points over and over and over and over. Stableford is a points system. Yes, it's stroke play, but it's a point system. So the committee moved, seconded, unanimously approved, went to the RNA. Down. That's my sound effect.
That's the traditionalist of it's just been there. Why change?
And I really disagree with that. So if you wouldn't mind, just when you have a chance over a pint over there, see if you can find out who's the
naysayer,
who's blocking it. What do you think of that, by the way? Would you support that change?
I'd have to think about it. This is the first time I've heard of it. How long has the word Stableford been around?
It's been around a long, long time, but so was Dormy. So was so many other wonderful words that we retired. So don't give me that argument. No, and Dr. Frank Stableford was apparently an iconic guy, and I'm sure a wonderful gentleman. But in all seriousness, I do think in the spirit of modernization, you can still keep it there and just say also known as Points. And I don't know. I don't know if that's really keeping people from playing. And you also have to think about the RNA governs the entire planet other than North America or whatever, the USGA.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, I guess they play Stableford almost exclusively or a lot. And they probably thought, that's going to confuse them if you change it to points because they call it Stableford and they've called it Stableford forever. So
how does that affect the handicap system?
As far as playing a Stableford system? Yeah. I think you can still keep your gross scores and make your handicap adjustments. What I love about points personally is
you've already changed the name in your mind.
No, I know. What I love about playing for points or playing Stableford is it's affirmative. It's like the worst I can do here is a 0. And that's really the spirit of it is your whole day doesn't go in the toilet because of one bad hole. And I love that. Yeah. I love the idea that you're kind of reborn on every hole and you have a chance to play for points once again. And the worst you can, it's kind of like, that's what Jack Vickers was thinking with
that's a lot of the concept of match play too.
Exactly.
It's 18 individual matches.
Right.
Really.
Right. So anyway, that's my little Edmate's hill to die on.
Well, if I have a chance to chat with somebody on the rules committee.
So when are you going over?
September. When do I leave?
Do you generally go every year?
I try to, but I've mixed in some Ireland trips the last few years. I'm going to Ireland next year. So this will be my trip, at least for another 2 years.
Yeah. Have you officiated anything over there?
Yeah, I officiated in 2012 at Royal Lytham in St. Anne's, the Open Championship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Christie, what time is it? 3:52 here. We're 52 minutes in. That's perfect. We always send to the conversation it works out.
Okay, good.
Just like a good round of golf. No more than 4 hours. Thank you so much for being on.
My pleasure.
I know this won't be the last time you join us because you're just too good a resource for us to learn and so thank you for being here and thank you for what you do for us through the foundation for the USGA. I know it's a labor of love. So
it is absolutely a labor of love.
So
well, thanks for having me, Ed. And if your listeners want to criticize my ruling, they can contact you.
Okay, I won't share your email.
Yeah, really.
All right. Till next time. Thanks, Christie.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Okay. Stay tuned for next month. We'll have another edition of Spirit of the Game.